I should have known when I saw the nameplate. White card, black ink, low-educated fake dad. Placed right in front of my seat at the wedding of my only son. The bride's family snickered like hyenas. Whispers turned to chuckles, chuckles into open laughter. I felt the heat rise in my chest, but I didn't move. Years of swallowing humiliation had taught me patience. I just smiled, sat down, and poured myself a glass of water. They thought they'd broken me. They thought a single word could undo decades of sacrifice. They had no idea. I wasn't always the quiet man in the corner. Once, I was a husband, a builder of homes, a dreamer. But when my wife left, chasing comfort with another man, I was left with a boy and a promise. "I'll give you everything I never had," I whispered into his tiny hand. I worked night shifts, bruised my back, blistered my palms. I studied at night, books stained with sweat. I built not just walls, but a life for him. He never saw me cry when bills buried me. He never heard me argue with the bank. All he saw was his father, steady, unshaken. But I always felt the eyes of the world on me, judging, smirking. A laborer raising a future doctor. A construction worker daring to hope his son could climb higher. I knew the whispers. Fake dad, pretender, not good enough. And yet, here we were, his wedding day. Proof I hadn't failed. Or so I thought. The bride's father was the first to sneer. A man in a tailored suit, the kind of suit that costs more than my annual rent once did. He leaned close and hissed, "Don't embarrass my daughter. Eat little, speak less. People like you should be invisible." I looked at him, calm. That kind of arrogance was a language I'd heard my whole life. What stung wasn't him, it was my son's silence. He sat there, proud in his tuxedo, his bride glowing beside him. And yet, he said nothing when his new in-laws laughed at me. I told myself he was nervous, that he'd speak up, that I hadn't raised a coward. But the minutes dragged on, the laughter spread, the humiliation lingered, and my son stayed silent. The food arrived, toasts were raised. Someone from the bride's side clinked their glass and said loudly, "To fathers who truly built their children's future." Another round of laughter. All eyes slid to me. I didn't flinch, I just watched my son. He glanced at me then, finally, and his eyes told me something I wasn't prepared for. Shame. Not for me, for himself. He stood suddenly, pushing his chair back. The hall quieted. His bride tugged his sleeve, but he ignored her. "Dad," he said, voice steady, "let's switch seats." Confusion rippled through the room, murmurs, gasps. His bride's mother stiffened. He took the nameplate that mocked me and held it up high. Everyone could see the words, "Low-educated fake dad." "This," he said, his voice growing louder, "is what you call the man who raised me. The man who worked 3 jobs to send me to university. The man who paid for every book, every lesson, every step I took." The room froze. Forks hovered mid-air. My son's voice cracked, but he didn't stop. "You see a laborer. I see a man who taught me integrity. You see someone who never went to college. I see the man who made me the surgeon I am today. If he's fake, then everything I am is fake too." The bride's father tried to cut him off. "Enough, you're making a scene." "No," my son snapped. "You made the scene when you mocked the only parent I ever had. You laughed at a man greater than any of you will ever be." Silence. Heavy. Crushing. Then my son walked to me, took the nameplate from my hand, and snapped it clean in half. He placed one half on the bride's father's plate. The other he dropped in the wine glass of the bride's mother. "Enjoy your meal," he said coldly. "But understand this, if you cannot respect my father, you cannot have me." His bride's eyes widened. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying respect isn't negotiable," he replied. "If you can't honor the man who raised me, then there will be no marriage." Gasps rippled across the hall. Chaos stirred. The bride's family erupted, pleading, arguing, demanding. But my son didn't flinch. For the first time in my life, I saw myself in him. The same iron, the same defiance. He turned to me, eyes steady. "Dad, let's go home." We walked out together, past the stunned faces, past the shattered silence, past the world that had doubted me. In the parking lot, under the winter night sky, he put his arm around me. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I should have stopped them sooner." I shook my head. "No, you stopped them at the right moment, when it mattered most." For years, I thought I was raising him alone. But that night, I realized he had been watching, learning, becoming.